morning, everyone, and thank you for taking time out of your day to join us. We are going to have our summer client collaboration call today. We're excited to have you here, and we're going to explore some new ways to implement StepUp products. And I'm joined by Sue Herrera this morning. She's one of our consultants and trainers. She's going to be our facilitator today. She's going to share some of her tips and things that she's learned in the field. So Sue, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Val. Hey, thank you for joining us today. I know that it's, still technically summer. And so we're knocking on August 1. I don't know about you guys, but when August 1 hit the calendar, some alarm went off in my head. As a teacher and as a leader, it was time. It was the new school year. The new year was never January for me. It was always August 1. We're starting the new year. So before we get it, it's going to be a fairly short call, depending upon how much collaboration we have, how much you feel like you want to talk throughout it. But let's start with introducing who we are. I know we met Val from StepUp. She's like extraordinary, does so many things for us. But if everybody else could introduce themselves, and if you would tell us how you know about StepUp or have partnered with StepUp, that would be helpful. I will tell you, I'm the director of instructional development and a consultant for StepUp, and I just celebrated my year anniversary with StepUp. I retired last year from being a principal and came to StepUp. Whoever wants to go next would be great.
I can go next. My name is Sue Herrera. I am a trainer and consultant for StepUp, and so I am just part-time, but I enjoy going into schools, both rural and big school districts, and train on our CMT, our curriculum management tool, and then also our MAT tools, and then developing assessments. So that's kind of my role. I kind of do the northwest part of the state and some northeast part of the state. So.
I am Addie Gottman. I work for the Palmyra School District, and I do curriculum and instructional technologies. And we use the CMTs, and Sarah has visited us several times to do training on that and on assessment. So I think this is our second year to be involved with StepUp.
Thank you.
I'm Rochelle Hamrick. I am at Kansas City International Academy, and I just started yesterday. So I went to a training last May with StepUp and KCIA, and so we started our curriculum integration for MLS and using StepUp. And that's as far as we've gotten so far.
Right. And what's your role again? I'm sorry, Rochelle.
Curriculum coordinator.
That's right. That's right. And where did you come from?
I was at the principal at Red Bridge Elementary in the Center School District.
That's right. Who is also a client of ours. Yes.
Yes.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and get us started. Some of the slides that you're going to see may be a review. Does everyone see the screen okay? Yep. Okay, our goals today are going to be couched under ensuring a guaranteed and viable curriculum by using those step-up processes and products that you've referenced to provide clarity and improve systems thinking. And then the big boulder is going to be reviewing how building leadership can ensure accountability. What would those moves look like for us? This step up process hierarchy is something that you've probably seen and we've all lived before. You've referenced, both of you have that. You've done the curriculum management tool, and so you've paced your priority standards. So you've done step 1 and 2. Step 3, creating assessments, would be next. And we kind of, as schools, as partners, we go through this over and over again as we get new resources, or as we really say, was this a viable pacing? And, assessments have to be tweaked from time to time. And so steps 1, 2, and 3 we're always in. It's step 4 and 5 where we really start to see transformation as school leaders when we're using our MAT books, our Missouri Assessment and Teaching Tool Handbook, to improve that Tier 1 instruction. And then when we're able to engage our teachers in instructional focused conversations, that's when things start to move. And that's what we want to focus on today, is how can administrators do that? And I'm really big on making sure that we can make things efficient and effective by connecting all the dots. I feel like lots of times there's lots of pockets of things happening as a building leader or district leader, and it's hard to align everything, align our efforts. And so I want to talk to you about when you get into classrooms, when you're doing your walkthrough observations, or you are implementing your evaluation system, whether you're a building leader or someone that's in charge of building leaders, you want to make sure that when principals go into classrooms or instructional coaches go into classrooms, that there are multiple purposes for it. And so I'm going to show you how we have attempted to align the curriculum management tool with mat book use, with educator growth guide, with getting into classrooms. And this is something that's available to all of our StepUp clients. We have taken the mat and we've shown you how it aligns to the educator growth guide on DESE. So I'm going to ask you just real quick, could you just tell us what sort of evaluation system you use? Do you use the knee? Do you have something that you've developed in your district, or are you using what's on DESE? Can you let us know that?
I think they use the knee.
Okay.
I'm not involved with it very much. That's the administrators do that.
And I don't know yet, Stu. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I bet you KCIA relies heavily on what's on DESE, but has probably tweaked it to meet their needs. Yeah. Hey, Lindsay, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. What do you use?
We use knee in Pilot Grove.
Okay, great. And it's great that Lindsay's on here because she's really the inspiration for what I'm going to show you today. She made a comment when I was in her school district last year about how she goes into classrooms to observe, and she uses the map book and she's checking on instruction. And so I thought, I bet I could align that to the evaluation system. So on the level 3, when we're unpacking the standard in the map book and we're looking at the assessment items, that's 3.1, curriculum standards implementation and critical thinking. Anytime we are asking these types of questions from Department of Ed, or we're looking at the released item, we're looking at critical thinking and the implementation, which are 2 of the big educator growth standards. And then when we get into the level 2 of our map book and we're reteaching, and we're just in the basic area trying to push kids to proficiency, you get into 2.4, which is reteaching and scaffolding, and what's the skill level of the teacher or the educator. And then when we focus on this academic language, we're into the 1.1, which is something we're always looking at. And so here's a screenshot of the educator walkthrough form, and it's a 1-pager. It's real simple, 1 page. And it's easy to use, lots of check boxes. I'm going to go ahead and give you a close-up so you can see it. It's just 3 columns. And again, inspired by Lindsay, who's on the call. But we start with priority standard. Is there evidence that we are teaching either a supporting or a priority standard? And we know that by looking at either the curriculum management tool or by the map book. And EG means educator growth standard. So you can see where it's aligned. And then we get into the I can statement. Is there some evidence that it's written in a format that students would understand, or can students articulate it? And that's Educator Growth Guide 7.3. We're creating students that understand the target and can talk about their own learning, that they're articulating it. Lots of times I'll go sit next to a student and watch what they're doing and ask them questions. I'm sure you've done the same thing. You know, what are you learning? Why are you doing this assignment? And then there's a place for notes. And then the middle section is dedicated to that academic language piece, which is 1.1. And when you get into, and I know on the knee, it's like this as well, because I used that for a while when I was in Pleasant Hill. But when we look at the academic language, yes, we want the educator to use it. Yes, we want it displayed in the classroom somewhere. But really the hallmark of that is, can the student use it, right? Can the student articulate the language on their own or with prompting? And so that middle column is really dedicated to that 1.1. And then here we get into instruction. How is it being delivered? And then I had a principal ask me about engagement. Can you add a section about engagement? So it's blank students out of blank students. And so you're actually counting, you're in the classroom counting. And then we get into 4.1, that's that critical thinking. What level are the questions or the collaboration with students? How are they engaged? At what cognitive level? And we reference the map book or the curriculum management tool in order to do that. And then how are students practicing on grade level? So we're referencing that proficient level in the map book. And then here we get into that differentiation. Do we see tiered instruction, tiered assignments, tiered questioning? And is there evidence that the map book is guiding that? So that's one option that we have. Sarah and I were actually in another school district where they wanted us to focus on ELA and the science of reading. And so we made one that was focused on just ELA. So let me zoom into this one just a little bit more. And it's the 3 columns, but this first column looks very different because we're talking about the different components of reading. So if we're in a classroom, what are we focused on? Are we doing shared reading, choral reading, independent reading, centers, etc.? If we're writing, how are we writing? And then that middle section really solidifies those threads of commonality or your collective commitments as a district or building. What does the learning environment have for students? What are the tools or anchors that we can see in a classroom? And so Sarah and I, with this particular district, worked very hard on what were their non-negotiables going to be for students. And then this last column looks very similar to what you saw on the first column. So how do we typically implement this at StepUp? Well, we'll come in and we calibrate in person with leaders who want to use the StepUp products, the walkthrough form. So we say, what does this mean to you? What does it mean to us? And sometimes our leaders say, I don't want to do every column. I just want to focus on those first 2 columns. It's too much on one page, and that's fine. We can customize it. That third bullet says we want to provide immediate positive feedback. And so we have StepUp Post-it notes, and we leave a specific feedback. We're not going to say great job or thanks for having us. We'll say, I saw an anchor chart that was really great, or I like how you were having children collaborate with one another, or beautiful classroom library, or great word wall, or whatever it was. We're being specific to give teachers some positive feedback. And then with the leaders, we're going to prioritize next steps. And it's really great when you can identify positive trends in the building. I was in a school district last year, and I went from the elementary, middle to high school. And the thread of commonality I saw throughout the entire district was the way teachers interacted with students, the positive culture and the way they talked. Man, that was great to be able to share with the building and district leaders. We also saw maybe a couple things that could have been missing that I knew that came from the map book training and the curriculum management tool training. And we were able to talk about that and what would next steps be. We also have the opportunity with building leaders and district leaders to say, so at this point, when you've been in classrooms and you've done the walkthrough, how can you come back and pull up that curriculum management tool? Have it bookmarked so it's easy for you to access. And how do you use the map book or your digital scales to say, okay, so what now what? This is what I've seen. How do I use this information I've gathered in the walkthrough form to have really meaningful conversations with teams or with teachers? So I've been talking a lot. I'm going to stop for a second and say, so this is another option for our StepUp clients. What are the implications from these walkthrough forms for teaching and learning? And maybe you've already been using something similar to this. So if you could just unmute and share, I would appreciate hearing what your thoughts are about that. And Sarah, feel free to chime in too, since you've been doing this with me for a while.
So I actually haven't used your forms. I like them because I feel like they have your non-negotiables on there. I've always just used the map book and kind of gave feedback like within each indicator. So like if we use knee. So within knee, I would be able to list like under cognitive, deeper level thinking, whatever that is.
Right.
I can't think of the wording specifically. I think it's 4.1. I would be able to list like either are the students using those, deeper level thinking, or is the teacher teaching to a 3? So I would be able to use that specific in there. I like the walkthroughs because knee is direct. Like if you're doing an observation, you could submit it right there. But I think they're even more specific. I'm kind of tired of knee just because this is my 10th year and we've used it. I feel like it's just repetitive. My teachers are getting the same scores because they're good. But I feel like this is just more specific with your district's non-negotiables. So I love it. And I already wrote it down. I'm going to copy them off and give them to my teachers and tell them, hey, if we want to add something different on there, it's also buy-in for them. So like if they know what our building wants to see, they can add that to that and we can add them to our sheets. But I'm using them this year.
I'll make sure they're in your folder. Great.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Rochelle, what are your thoughts? I hate to put you on the spot. I know you're brand new. It's day 1. I'm sorry.
I just think it aligns out all the work. So you're a lot of times we'll have this and we'll have that and we'll have this, and this just kind of brings that all together. Like, here's what we've done with our CMT right now. And so now we're going to be looking for that in the classroom and showing teachers how that then aligns with their other things that they're doing, like their EGP and their evaluation. So it just kind of pulls it all together. And I think anytime you can do it, show them how everything works together and integrates. It's just doesn't feel like one more thing on their plate. It really,
Right.
you know what I'm saying?
Well, and you have great coaches at KCIA that could also use it. So that's another option. Lindsay, I'm sorry, what were you going to say?
No, she just brought up a good point. It reminded me of, I don't know every standard and I don't know exactly what every standard should say, but I also think it creates a great conversation. Like, number one, I'm learning as I use this map book. I learn every time I walk into a classroom, but I also feel like the teacher learns every time they get feedback. And I think it's just an open form of communication that we're both learning. And it's almost aha moments every time there's an observation. And I think it's just so much more deeper the conversations can be about the standards as well. It's more beneficial.
Great. Thanks for sharing. Addie, did you have anything that you wanted to add to the conversation?
I think it's going to be a good place. That would be good for our teachers to do some self-checks too. Even if it's not used by our administrator, it would be, that would be a rubric or, just a self-check for the teachers to make sure, since we're still pretty new at it, that, are they on the right track?
Right. And, Addie, that makes me think, I'm wondering if there's a need for me to tweak this to make it more of a peer observation. I bet we could, so that it would be not feel so evaluative, but feel more, what can I gain from my fellow educator by being in their classroom, and how it aligns to the work we've done at StepUp, right?
Well, and just, when they're in their grade level meetings, when they're in their team meetings, it's a great, it's a check that nobody's saying, hey, you didn't do this right. We look at it as a group. Right. We go through and see, we can evaluate ourselves and see, where we need the work or what we're doing right. And I like that.
Great suggestion. Sarah, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Just kind of what you mentioned before, when we did the ELA observation form, I think it was great for that school district. They were a small school district, but just seeing, they were lacking a lot of commonalities, and then we did collective commitments with them. So just it kind of helped bring those conversations. And Addie, kind of what you're saying, I mean, just as you know, you're going through your process. Palmyra has their CMT done now. It's just, it would be a great tool for those teams to talk about it, as to make sure that they're using this. You know, we want them to use those MAT tools and talk about their standards, and even in the questioning. And I remember Lindsay, when we were at Pilot Grove, you know, we had a teacher say, yeah, I think I'm going to put those level 3 questions on a sticky note. And so just those conversations can come from this as well. So
Great. Okay, well, thank you all for sharing. I appreciate it. Val, I didn't want to leave you out. Was there anything that you wanted to add, or?
Well, I just want to echo what Rochelle and Lindsay both said, because what I was thinking as you're showing this is often we as teachers, we have a professional development and then we're left wondering, okay, well, what now? What do I do next? And I think that this tool really helps to bring it full circle. It holds not only the teacher accountable, but it also holds the administration accountable for, we just invested our time into learning this new skill. And so now what? And so, you know, we give rubrics to our students to make sure they know what the target is. And this is very much the rubric for the adults. So, yeah, I think it's a really great tool.
Thank you. So I know it seems like I'm saying goodbye really quickly. I don't mean to, but I know that your time is so valuable. Our purpose today was to share that walkthrough form with you and let you know that at StepUp we are listening and that we are trying to align the stars. And I'm going to take what I heard today from Addie, and I'm going to start working on maybe a peer observation form, and that would be more teacher focused than administrator or leadership focused. And I will make sure that all of your schools have the walkthrough form in your folders, both of them. But if you want a StepUp consultant to come out and go through the process with you, or with leaders, or with instructional coaches, we are more than happy to do that. We've had great success with it, and could set that up for you for sure. Val, are there any other things coming up that we want them to know about?
Well, I am actually working on publishing our fall one-day training calendar. So that will be, I think, does everyone here, Rochelle, I'll need to add you probably to our newsletter because you are so new, but Lindsay and Addie, do you all get our newsletter? Okay, so I'm going to be putting that in our newsletter that comes out on Thursday, but we're really excited about some of the one-day trainings that we're going to offer around different parts of the state. So be on the lookout for that. And then if you haven't had a chance yet, check out our new podcast. And we're going to be, we have some people from Missouri who we are highlighting, but we're also excited to be interviewing people from around the country and even the world. We interviewed someone from Australia the other day. So it's just another great way to do some professional learning for leaders. So I will also put that in our newsletter. So
great. So we do hope you have safe, happy, and transformative school year, and we hope that StepUp can be a part of that. And if you are a year 2 client and get your scores back and they go up, we want to hear from you. We want to celebrate with you. And we're hoping we see that trend throughout the state as teachers and school districts gain clarity on their standards. Thank you so much for being with us today. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah.